On November 24, 2012, the people of California went to the polls to vote for the election and other props. One prop was Prop 34, which would have abolished the death penalty, but it was defeated 52 to a 48% split. So as you can see, the majority of people in California want to keep the death penalty in place, even though it does possess flaws. That's why I proposed that we needed to reform the death penalty. By reform, I mean a way to change how the system works so it could work more properly and be more effective. Some of you guys probably think this issue does not affect you or concern you, but it does, because the money used to fund it is our money that we use for taxes, that we pay in taxes and stuff like that. Today I would like to talk to you about how reform the death penalty system is needed to save money, to speed up the time a convict spends on death row, and to actually execute the convicts on death row. First, I would like to show you how the reform in the death penalty system is needed to save money. A suggestion was made by Lori Levinson, a professor at Loyola Law School, was that a way to improve California's death penalty system would be to limit the special circumstances that qualify first-degree murder cases for a death sentence. Right now, there are about 39 special circumstances which apply to murder involving torture, bombs, and stuff like that. If we reduce these 39 circumstances to just 5, these will become the worst of the worst, and it will create an immediate savings of $55 million a year by reducing the size of inmates in death row by half. Another way to save money is by narrowing the death penalty to only cases which the prosecution presents scientific or video evidence of guilt, or which there's a recorded confession. According to deathpenalty.org, this would generate tens of millions of dollars a year by reducing the number of capital trials and appeals. As you see, these changes would save millions of dollars that can be allocated to other important issues like the school system or special works project for the homeless or other things like that. Secondly, I would like to show you how reform is needed to speed up the time a death row inmate spends on death row. One way to speed up the time an inmate spends on death row is by changing how the appeal process works. When a person is convicted and punished to death, the convict automatically gets an appeal to the California Supreme Court. We should revise this so that it can be reviewed by the California Court of Appeals. This would let death row inmates' appeals review faster, because there are 6 different California Courts of Appeals, not just one, like the California Supreme Court, which only gets like around, I think, 150 cases a year. So it will speed up the system. Secondly, we need to reconsider how when an inmate files a habeas corpus petition, it directly goes to the California Supreme Court. A habeas corpus petition is a defendant's way to agree that factors outside the case, outside the trial, affected the judgment. We need to change this up by letting the petition begin in the trial court where the convict was originally sentenced, so it'll be faster. Another way to change how the habeas corpus petition works is by limiting the number of petitions a death row convict gets. A perfect example is Randy Kraft, who is on his 10th petition, even though he was found with the body of his last, he was caught with the body of his last victim in his car, and he's on his 10th petition, so clearly he was at fault, and he's still getting 10 petitions for no clear reason. These couple of changes would speed up the average time the inmate spends on death row, which are now on the average about 10, and some even spend over 20 years on death row. And yeah. Lastly, I would like to show you how reform is especially needed to actually execute the inmates on death row. Last time an inmate was executed was January 17, 2006, and that's like 7 years ago. And so for the past 7 years, we've been spending money on the death penalty system, billions of dollars, and nothing's getting done. So we should change that. Execution stopped in California after a federal judge said that the use of multiple drug injections would cause too much pain to the convict while dying. The clear answer was said by McGregor Scott, the former U.S. Attorney in Sacramento. The voters have to vote for a single drug protocol. This type of execution has been upheld by the U.S. federal courts, and it's being used in Arizona, and I believe Ohio and some other states. And well, on the other hand, if you don't think lethal injection isn't right, there's also the option of using a gas chamber. And no, it's not the same gas chamber that Nazis used in World War II, but it's a gas chamber that doesn't cause any pain to the convict, so the convict will die without any pain. A gas does not have to be toxic to be lethal. A natural gas can produce a painless death by displacing oxygen in the chamber. The positives while using a gas chamber is that no medical training is needed for the person doing the execution, and it's not prone to boycotts like lethal injection is. So we'll save money too, and it will actually kill the convict. These are just two of the main ways we can fix the problem we have about executing procedures. So to wrap everything up, today I talked about how California is in need of a reform in its death penalty system to save money, decrease the time spent on death row, and to actually execute the death row inmates. These are just a few of the changes needed to set up a properly working death penalty system, which will lead to a better society and a better life. Thank you. I have my morning ritual. Where are you going?
Well, our oral evaluator is not here. Let me.
Myself.
What did you think? Sure. Let's see
I
what you
was
think.
reading off my cards too much, and I wasn't looking around a lot. I guess I was pretty tense, and my voice part wasn't loud enough. And my conclusion could have been better, and I could use more examples.
Well, those are pretty accurate. I think those are good. Your voice does need to be a little bit louder. Also needs to have a little bit more variety in it. You're kind of operating in that narrow range, and I think you need to. One of the things that would help is if you had some emotional appeal in your argument. The frustration about, look, if we believe that there ought to be a death penalty and that people who've committed heinous crimes ought to be executed, they shouldn't be sitting on death row for 20 years waiting for that to happen. Get a little righteous indignation in there. And look, we're spending this much money just to keep people here for a long, long time. Or it's frustrating. Why is this guy getting 10 appeals? He's got 10 petitions. He was caught with the body of his last victim in the trunk of his car, and he's getting 10 petitions? I mean, you need to get, like I said, a little, emotionally involved in those kinds of things so that you can, build some empathy with the audience and get a relationship. I think that would improve the performance. You'd also be a little bit less nervous. I think you're trying to be, I want to be professional, I want to do a good job, I've got all my notes here, and you want to be thorough. There's nothing wrong with that, but you're so focused on getting all of that right that you forget that you need to kind of connect with the audience, and this is a persuasive speech, so you need to do those kinds of things. There are a lot of things in the speech that I think are really solid. It's very clearly organized and easy to follow. You have clear transitions between the points. All the structural stuff you're doing a good job on. I thought you did a good job outlining and detailing some information on the individual points. I thought that there was a good explanation about some of the problems with the appeals process and all of the petitions. I think you did. You had some nice quotes there about how much money we would save if we made these particular kinds of reforms. So I thought that seemed like it was pretty well developed. Like I said, maybe some examples that allow you to get some emotional involvement also. But otherwise, I thought that the structure and the supporting information was pretty solid. All right. Good deal.